To say that I'm fired up to be here is an understatement. You see, now you know that I'm not going to be a comedian. I want to tell you what I'm really excited about being up here for. I want to talk to you about being unstoppable. I want to inspire you to understand that there's only two things that make the difference between making the sale, making a dream come true, getting up every day, and executing. And those are actions and attitudes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But I'm particularly excited to talk to you guys today because I don't get an audience like this very often. An audience where I think I have a little bit of an idea of your customer. And I also think I understand at the highest level what you're selling. You see, I was an ERP customer, and I almost lost my business because I was too slow to bring in the ERP system. I thought QuickBooks could solve all my problems. I'd just keep putting Band-Aids on it. Wrong. And it was scary, by the way. It was like jumping out of a helicopter the first time they came in and said, hey, we're going to rip out the central nervous system of your company and put a new one in. Talking to somebody that's in fitness, that doesn't go well with me because it's hard to change a central nervous system of a body. But you know what? They were right. It made a huge difference, and it made a complete turnaround for me in my business. But about what you're selling, and this is a real important theme of what I want to talk about today. You see, the way I see it, you're not in software. You're in the sleep business. And what I'm talking about there is you want to give me, my team, a good night's sleep. You see, there's a period of my life where I had terrible night's sleeps as a civilian going through my startup. And when I started doing that, I wasn't dreaming about my next product. I was just trying to figure out, could I keep the business going? You see, when you're in there and you're actually thinking about it, and you're coming to somebody that's a first-time ERP buyer, that's what's going through my mind. Now, I went through 3 implementations after the first purchase. But that system that you're selling, it's not software. You're selling a system. And the system that I think you're selling, the way I see it, is made of 3 things. You're selling a promise, you're selling a process, and you're selling your people. And that's kind of why we're all here today. That's why Acumatica's put all this on. You see, the competitors, and we brought them all in, they showed us their promise, how quickly this could get implemented. They showed us the process. Boom, boom, boom. It's going to get done. We'll be ahead of schedule. We'll be under budget. But you don't buy software from a software. You buy it from the people. It was the people that made the difference for the sale. The people that walked in and proved to me that they cared about me and my dream and my team's work. When they proved how much they cared about me, I returned the favor. The implementation did not go as planned, but they stuck with it. We got it done. We turned the corner. Teddy Roosevelt has this fantastic quotation. It's one of my favorites that I love. And it says, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. You see, I don't care how fancy the system is. I don't care about the features and benefits to a point. They all got to have the same promise. I want to know that you care about me. And where does care come from? Care comes from an emotion, a whole collection of emotions. That comes from attitude. It's easy to talk about the care, but you got to prove it in your actions. When you put the attitudes and the actions together, the care comes through, you start to sell me, and now I'm your partner. I'm not a customer. And by the way, look around at what Acumatica is doing. They're saying to you, we care about you. This conference is what this is all about. So let me tell you what I'm going to talk to you about. We're going to talk about 3 different things. I'm going to take you on a journey back to biology class. You see, most of us who went back through biology class, you didn't understand what's happened in the last 20 years, 30 years. I want to share a little scientific fact. And then from there, we're going to fly out to Coronado, California, hang out on the sunny beaches of San Diego, and I'll tell you a few SEAL training stories. And then we'll go up north to Sausalito, and I'll tell you about my civilian SEAL training experience starting a business. And then we'll finish on the ramp of a C-130 at 14,000 feet. But first, let me show you my first office. Oh, I was so excited for this office. This took me 8 years to get there. This is an ERP system's dream come true. You see this right here? That's the most sophisticated and complicated system in the SEAL's arsenal. What this is, stay with me, it's an SSN DDS SDV system. Told you, ERP would love that. So, what you're looking at here is a nuclear ballistic submarine. This is an attack one, but I was really on the ballistic one. And it's bolted to the back aft hatch, a garage. That's called a dry deck shelter system. The dry deck shelter system's got these 3 chambers in it, but the biggest chamber houses this, my office. That's an SDV. An SDV, if you type it into Google, they'll say it's a SEAL delivery vehicle. The Navy classifies it as a classified combat mini-submersible. You see, the system is really cool, but it's really hard. Because what's hard about it is first you have to launch underwater. The submarine is a flooding submarine. That means I've got to wear a wetsuit. That means I have to wear a special breathing apparatus. But the whole system is designed to sit out in international waters. And then just these guys, these lucky few, and that would be where I'd sit right there, the mission commander. We go into the territorial waters. A normal mission goes between 8 and 12 hours. How would you like this for a weight loss program? Go do an SDV dive and you'll lose 10 pounds. They want you 10 to 15 pounds heavy before you go do the mission. Well, right before I got to deploy on my first mission, I walk in, commanding officer's there, they always give you this little pep talk right before you leave. And he's like, Mills, come on in here. You got platoons ready to go? Where's your letter? My letter? Well, what do you mean my letter? And he says to me, don't leave me with nothing but a flag to give to your next of kin if you come back on your shield. Write me a letter, I want it on my desk, and know that that letter is going to be the last piece of written communication your next of kin is ever going to get from you. Woo! Yeah! Fires me right up. And he tells me one more thing as I'm now processing this at the ripe old age of 26. Oh, one more thing. America's counting on you. Don't mess up. Oh, God. They don't tell you that in SEAL training. So you go home and you sit down and you go, what do you write about? My next of kin, my brother, younger brother, my mom, my dad. My brother's pretty easy. Dear Andrew, I'm really sorry I threw a rock at your head in 3rd grade. I'm sorry I crushed your Tonka trucks when I was mad. And I'm going to make it up to you. Here's the key to my Jeep, and here's my watch. Those are the only 2 things I had. My diving watch and my used Jeep. And then my dad, my mom and my dad, they're a great system, and I was like, hey, Dad, don't cry for me, smile for me, because I died doing what I loved. And for my mom was a little different, because my mom, she gave me something to be thinking about that kind of became the essence of what I ended up writing the book about. You see, I was a sickly kid, not just uncoordinated, as Fred mentioned, but I had had pneumonia 3 times, bronchitis over a dozen times by the time I was 12. I grew up in a small little town in Massachusetts, and we were going to the big city of Worcester one day to go see a pulmonary specialist. I go in to see this pulmonary specialist. He's not even looking at me. He's got thick little Coke bottle glasses, white coat. Sit over here, please. Just blow in that tube. I want to see how long you can keep a ping pong right there. He blew in a couple more apparatus. Okay, I got it. I see what's going on here. Please sit down. Mrs. Mills, this is a really simple thing. You see, he has a smaller set of lungs for his size. It's just the way he was born. And also, he's got asthma. So here's what I recommend. He needs to lead a less active lifestyle, and he should learn the game of chess. I heard chess, and literally my body just changed. My mom quickly turned to me, and she has these nails. She's got these long French nails, and she would just be like, you, go out in the lobby. I'll talk to him. I go out in the lobby. Oh man, I was feeling pretty good about feeling sorry for myself. My head was down. I was crying. Mom comes out. She comes to me, and she digs her nails into my arm. And she goes, what's wrong with you? I'm like, Mom, chess? I'm not even good at checkers. And she's like, that's not the point. The point is nobody tells you what you can or can't do. No, you listen to me right now, Alden. You go do what you want to do. We'll get some medicine. We'll figure this out. And that's what it was about. I wrote 3 of those letters to my next of kin before I left SEAL Team. And then when I started my business, I started writing them again. And I didn't start writing them until a buddy of mine came back on his shield. Except this buddy, he had to write a letter to an 18-month-old son that would never know his father. And that really got me thinking. What would you say? What would you say to the next generation? What's really important, it's actually not consoling, it's coaching. It's saying, hey, here are the keys to success. What are they? They're attitudes and actions, and now we're going to go into biology class. You see, SEAL Team, this is their term for biology. It's a weapons platform. People, and this is how they would talk to you in SEAL training, you get none of the toys until you understand how to use this little system right here without the sunglasses. You see, you could replace all those toys up there with every other customer's skill sets that you're using in there. You could replace the whole thing with an ERP system, but you can't replace this guy. And what makes actions and attitudes go? This is the biology piece. You see, the weapons platform that they're talking about is learning to own and operate your brain, the thoughts that occur there, the actions that are coming out of the body, and the spark. Now, the spark is what I'm calling the emotions. That's the system, the brain, the body, and the emotions. But the most important thing is understanding the breakthrough of what's going on in the brain. You see, this is what we didn't learn about 20, 25 years ago. That's as far as I'll go back. That's a neuron. A neuron is an action cell, sits in the brain. We got 86 billion of those sitting up there. It turns out we even have some in our gut. But the neuron makes all the actions of the body happen. It makes the senses happen, it makes the movements happen, and it makes the emotions happen. And how does it do it? It does it through what I call rocket fuel. We're not going to go into all the hormones, but you got some key hormones that are pumping out through the body. Hormones like dopamine and serotonin and BDNF and NPP, they're all coming through there. And they get activated when the brain gets challenged. So what's the breakthrough? In 1998, these 3 scientists down in San Diego debunked something that we were all told in biology. You see, they would say, oh, by the way, the neurons, you're born with so many, and then they start dying off by the time you reach 30. Oh, by the way, that's a pathway, a neural pathway. Your pathways are set by the time you're 30. And then that old adage neatly fits into biology class. The old adage of, you can't teach a dog an old dog new tricks. Oh, that's what they're talking about, that you're set. Nope, these 3 scientists in San Diego, they discovered that the brain, working with the body, can do neurogenesis. Neurogenesis all the way to the point of us being promoted. That would be the end of life, as we know it. Neurogenesis is the production of more neurons. And it's not just the production of more neurons, it's the production of new pathways. But the problem with pathways, it goes against the way the brain is originally formed. You see, the brain, and why we are continually at the top of the food chain as far as species go, is that we come with a survival instinct in our brain. We are pre-wired to avoid death. We are pre-wired to survive. But the neurons and the neural pathways need challenges to learn new things. Take, for instance, learning a new language. It's hard. It's even harder if that language is going to be Chinese or Japanese. You can't recognize anything. The brain's getting frustrated. It's getting pounded on its head, and you just got to go, no, we're going to keep working on this. But the funny thing about the brain is the brain, it needs another set of systems. The body, you're familiar with that, right? Over 200 bones of the skeletal structure. Almost 600 muscles. Cardiovascular system to bring the rocket fuel to the neurons in the brain. This system works together. And the other thing, they didn't even discover this until about 8 years ago. There's another system called an enteric system. They call it the second brain. Look it up on Google. There's 500 to 600 million more neurons in your gut. Now in SEAL Team, they actually have an award. It's been going on for 50 years. It's called the Fire in the Gut Award. You hear the old adage, trust your gut, right? That's because serotonin is being kicked off in here. Serotonin is part of the rocket fuel system. Those are the mood hormones. Low serotonin, here comes depression. How do you get out of that? How do you pump it up? You work, the body gets going. It starts moving. And when the body starts moving, serotonin levels go up, rocket fuel goes to the brain, and you got this great system. You got this processor, this computer sitting up here, and then you've got this action vehicle down there. But there's one other thing. Because if that's all it was, we'd be walking computers. We'd logically process one thing after the other. Nope. It gets more complicated. We have emotions. These are the 3 general areas of emotions. They are feel emotions, behave emotions, and believe emotions. These come together and they form attitudes. Attitudes then start having a conflict with the brain. And you're going to have a decision that you're going to make, and that's part of what they do with SEAL training. You see, they want to have you have this meeting real quick with the little voices inside your head, and what they'll say is the fire in your gut. The fire is the attitude, the care, what you love. You see, love's the most powerful emotion there is. And when you really care about something, Katie bar the door. I mean, you're going to get it done. But this system is what they teach you in the first phase of training. And I had taken myself 4 years to get through the Naval Academy to show up at SEAL training. We're done with biology now, okay? But I really want to stress to you the importance of the scientific fact. I want to remove the excuses of the woulda, shoulda, couldas. And they do that very well at SEAL Team. They show up, you show up, and you work for about 5 weeks in a pre-phase holding cell. You're not with all the other guys who are already classed up. But you're now meeting men from all across the country who've gone through multiple physical tests, multiple psychological tests. Everybody can run, swim, push, pull, do sit-ups. They all got it. But they don't let you class up. They make it mandatory to sit in 5 weeks of just going back through it. We're just going to work out. And every day they'll show you, oh yeah, look at that. Look at all those helmets on the ground. You see those? Those are quitters. Whew, tough day there. And then you keep working out. And then they tell you, okay, boys, we're going to do one more fitness test. It's the same one we've done 3 times already. A fitness test, just to confirm we are physically fit to start training. We started with 122 guys in that pre-phase, and by the time we classed up, after doing that fitness test, and every single one of those guys could pass it because we only got stronger. Everyone had to pass to get into the group. We lost half the class. We were down to 64 from 122, and we hadn't even started training. How come? They got psyched out. They started seeing it, going, no way. I know that guy. He was in the class ahead of me. He quit. I'm not in. So here you are, first day of class, and you get to see the frog monster. And what he's got around his neck here is a little statement. It says, so you want to be a frog man. And you have a senior instructor that kind of talks like that. He comes out and he gives you your welcome speech to the first day of training. And he's a particularly interesting fellow because I'll never forget a guy that's missing his left buttocks from a rocket-propelled grenade in Vietnam. Imagine his nicknames. So I'm going to paraphrase, but this is pretty much how he says. He goes, boys, I'm going to tell you how to make it through training. Come to the other side and be a frogman with us. Yeah, it's real easy. You just got to figure out in your noodle what price you're willing to pay. That's all you got to do. You see, the problem is 80% of you here, that price is going to be too high. You ain't going to pay that price. Oh, but for you other 20% that will pay the price, we're going to pound on you. And he gets kind of goofy looking. And he goes, yeah, we're going to treat you like a samurai sword. You know how those are built, boys? No. Oh, we're going to heat up a piece of metal. We're going to bring out a hammer. Bam! We're going to pound on it and then stick it in cold water. You know how long it takes to make a samurai sword? No. 2,000 folds. That's about what we figure we got to do for you. So, by the way, I was supposed to say, welcome to SEAL training. Right after that, the instructors come in and they go, boys. And they're not drill instructor likes. It's not like Full Metal Jacket where you got this really hardcore drill instructor. It's more like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personalities. And they go, boys, we got this really fun event coming up. We're going to go over to the combat training tank. We'll run for about 5 miles, and then we'll sit on the cold concrete for a little while, and I'm going to tell you about your first pass-fail challenge. Okay, a pass-fail challenge? For me, it took me 4 years to get there, and it's the first day and they're already telling me I have an opportunity to fail? This is 25 weeks of training. So we go for a run, we get on the cold concrete, and we're sitting there, and they goes, okay, let me tell you the final exam right up front. You're going to swim for about 200 meters, and then you're going to take a little break, just kind of float on the water, relax. And then you're going to be in the 9-foot section, you'll bob for about 10 minutes, and then you'll go down on the ground, and you're going to pick up a mask with your teeth and bring it over to the pool. The neurons in the gut start firing, going, that doesn't sound right, because the swim test is an 800-meter swim test. What's the catch? Brain's going, oh, no problem, we can do this. Until they go, oh, I forgot to tell you. We're going to tie your feet together and tie your hands behind your back. What? This is drown proofing. This is what they teach you in the first week. You know what the brain processor's doing? The one that's been wired to survive is saying, danger, this is not normal. Don't do this. And then it starts going through a whole bunch of other questions. What is this for anyhow? Does this really mean you're going to make you a SEAL? Is this because if you get captured by a pirate and they make you walk the plank that you got to take the jump and swim away? No. But what it is doing is it's throwing a challenge out to the brain. It's throwing a challenge out to the brain so you can have a conversation right away with your attitude and saying, okay, who's in control? Is the attitude the one that's going to grab the throttle, push it down, and say, no, brain, we're going, we're doing it? Well, because they told the final exam right up front, they got what they wanted. They were expecting it. They had a guy right behind them with a clipboard and the bell. 2 guys got up and walked out. They didn't even try. But you see, it's actually not that impossible. Don't look at that guy right there. He's trying to get the mask. Or this guy, he's trying to get to the surface. But when you break it down into little bite-sized pieces, and they don't throw you in the deep end of the pool right out of the gate. No, they tie your feet together, and they just teach you how to learn to use your feet as one. And then they put their arms behind their back, and you hold a rope, and you learn to swim like a dolphin, using your head to your feet. And then, when it's all said and done, they teach you how to use your lungs like a buoyancy compensator. And after that, you got it. And another interesting thing is that if guys are having a hard time, but they're really trying, the instructors get in the water and they help you. You see, the instructors want you to pass, but they aren't going to tell you that until they start to see the actions and the attitudes coming from you. Well, after getting through drown proofing, the big one is lumen. The big one that weeds out most of the folks that aren't having their attitudes and actions in the right place. This is week 6. And week 6 is Hell Week. And Hell Week is where they wake you up Sunday night and they take you to Friday and they give you a total of 3.5 hours of sleep. And the week prior to Hell Week, everybody's on edge. You're nervous. And I had, by the way, at this point, I'm down to the last officer, me, and I've got about, at the beginning of the week, about 40 or so guys with me from the 64. And a guy comes up to me and he goes, "Sir, I ain't gonna quit." And I said, "Seaman Schmuckatelli, how did you know that? I mean, we're all kind of nervous about this." He goes, "No, you don't understand. I came here before. I came here before 2 years ago, and I quit before I got to Hell Week." I'm like, well, how do you know now that you're not going to quit? "I've been taking cold showers for 2 years." Wait. You've been taking cold showers for 2 years? Do you get the humor in this? He was controlling the faucet. What? It didn't work for Seaman Schmuckatelli. He got about a night through Hell Week. And then the next guys, our last two quitters, before we start Hell Week, they go in and they get the great idea that they're going to go and be cleaners in the instructor's office. They walk in, they come out, they go, Mr. Mills, guess what? We got the Hell Week schedule. Come on, let's go photocopy it. We'll give it to everybody in the class, and we can game the system. I'm like, I do not want to see that. I don't want to know anything about what's coming in front of me. I can only imagine what's in there. What do you think happened? They started looking at it going, holy moly, this can't happen. This is impossible. 3 rounds of instructors every 8 hours for 5.5 days. They quit. They quit before it even started. By the time we started, we were down to 34. 1 officer, 33 enlisted. And they tell you, you will never forget your very first quitter in Hell Week. And I will certainly never forget the instructor that was teaching us and trying to get his first quitter. You see, this instructor was from Boston. This is daytime picture, because the night ones really don't come out. But this is surf torture. And he'd talk like this. He'd say, hey, Ensign Maggot, you and your other maggots, go get in the water. You smell. Okay, march out there, about face, take seats, get good and comfortable. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's got a huge berm behind him, and he has an audience. You see, all the old guard of SEALs, they come back. They want to make sure that the process and the promise is still as hard as it was when they went through. Of course, they won't tell you that. They always had the hardest training. But they're up there, it's raining, it's 45 degrees, it's December, and we're sitting in the surf zone. Hey boys, guess what? I got 181 pop flares here. That's our class, 181. And I'm going to fire them off. And a pop flare burns for 54 seconds. He goes, boys, you see that pop flare? It burns for 54 seconds. You do the math. I got 181 times 54. And I'm going to fire them sequentially. For you Einsteins, that means one after the other. Fires another one. Well, every class has a song. I have my song with our class. It's the grand old flag. She's a grand old flag. She's a high-flying flag. She's the emblem of. He gets to about 6 or 7, and you can tell he's getting bored. There's nothing going on. Hey, Doc! He's got a megaphone. Bring that ambulance right up here in front of everybody, and open the door while you're at it. I kid you not. I can still see it. He opens the door to this huge modified 4-wheel drive ambulance that's out on the beach. Huge plume of heat comes out. You can just look at it going, whoa. They had that thing so heated up. He goes, hey boys, looks cozy in there, huh? You know what else I got in there? I got hot cocoa and warm blankets. Yeah. Come on, who's my first quitter? And we got going. We start singing again. He goes, hey Doc, come on. Doc, come out here and let's do a little class on hypothermia. Doc, tell the boys, what's the water temperature right now? It's 58 degrees, Instructor Boston. Ah, Doc, how long does it take to get hypothermia in 58-degree water? That would be approximately 7.5 to 10 minutes. And what is hypothermia, Doc? It's a 2-degree drop in your body core temperature from 98.6 to 96.6. And what happens when that happens? Well, you start to shiver. I'm not kidding you. We literally started shaking. We were standing there, and we were going, and we weren't shaking before. But once the doc started telling us we've been in the water long enough, boom! We started shaking. And then what happens after a while longer, like 20 minutes? Psh, he's still firing these things off. Well, then the rest of the blood comes from the extremities, it goes to the core, and slowly the blood slows down to the head, and you start to lose your consciousness. Oh, what happens next, Doc? You could die. Boys, did you hear that? You could die. Come on, this ain't worth it. And right there, he got his first quitter. And the funny thing is, this quitter breaks out. We're like, no, don't do this. Don't fall for it. The quitter walks up and goes, Instructor Boston, I'd like some of the hot cocoa and warm blankets. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're asking of me. I'm dropping out. Oh, you're quitting, are you? Oh. Well, let this be a lesson to everybody here. I didn't say I had hot cocoa and warm blankets for quitters. Go to X Division. And what ends up happening is that throughout the rest of the week, my class went down from 34 to 18. We got to 18 guys left. We started with 122 6 weeks before. And they make you go through this PT training with a log. And this log says old misery on it. And it's burned underneath saying, misery loves company. And they create this place called X Division. And X Division is where everybody goes that has what they would say is the miserable attitude. The ones that are the woulda, shoulda, couldas. You see, SEAL Team gets this. They want to separate the people that aren't all in. They want the all-in people so focused on trying to get through, on giving it everything they got, because they know every day these guys got to wake up and see what happens on a pass-fail challenge. They don't want the old adage of one bad apple spoils a bunch. They immediately separate them. You know the kicker of my first quitter? He was a corpsman. He was a petty officer, second class. He worked with that doctor. He knew the definition of it, what hypothermia means. He flipped the switch. He pulled his attitude throttle back, and he let the brain and the body take over, going, no way, we need to survive. Body's cold, brain, get me out of here. He lost the fire. He lost the fire to keep going. So after I went through SEAL training, after I did several deployments, I decided I was going to prior my fire in the belly to building a fitness company. And this product right here, that was my baby. I was going to save the world from excess fat. Ever seen something like this before? Know what it does? It's part of the problem. You see, I went around for 2 years. I talked to 300 people. I got 37 that convinced me to give me $1.5 million. I then spent the next 2 years learning $1,475,000 worth of ways not to launch that product. I'm down to my last 25,000, and I have a small group of investors, and they say, Alden, we want you to come in. We need to talk to you. Now, none of these had invented a product. They hadn't invented a product. They hadn't brought something to market. They weren't in my space. But they said, Alden, you have $25,000 left. We're very proud of you for working so hard, but stop. You're embarrassing yourself. It's over. done. Use your $25,000, pay off the lawyers, and go get a job. I couldn't do it. I just, in particular, now my attitude throttle had just been pushed forward again. I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I didn't quit, but I did pivot from that product. With the $25,000 I had left, I went and bought a couple of advertisements in the back of Outside Magazine, Men's Journal, and Men's Fitness. And I launched this product, the Perfect Pushup. I only launched that product so I could get back to my Save the World from Excess Fat product. And then this thing took off way faster than I thought. This is where the ERP system starts to come into play. You see, it took off so fast that within a couple of years, we'd already shipped over 3 million pairs of these things. I thought QuickBooks was going to be no problem. But then we had this thing called an e-commerce site because I was running infomercials. And I was only doing a 1-minute spot because that's all the money I had, even though everybody told me, don't do it. I was like, that's what I got. And that's what I was left with. Things were going great. Everybody was like, where did this kid come from? Holy moly, he's an overnight success. And we get a call from Inc. magazine. And they go, hey, are these numbers really true? Is this possible? Did you really do 12,000% growth? Did you get to 63 million in 3 years? I'm like, yeah, isn't it great? We're going to keep selling them. When a magazine comes and wants to do a profile on you, put the warning flags up in your head and go look in your back office, because I swear to you, this was a curse for me. They didn't do a follow-up with me because shortly after this came out, it was January 2009, the second Great Depression. Bank funding got cut off. Retail lights shut off. And we were just in the middle of our first ERP implementation. Wow! That was not a good sleep system for me during that time period. But through it all, we did get the ERP system. We figured out how the bank works, and we got through it. And we actually ended up joining forces with a much bigger company. And the bigger company went through another ERP implementation. But by that point, I was starting to get a good night's sleep again. I started to dream again, and dreamers need their sleep. I started creating more products again. And it really helped because there was that ERP system that I wasn't so scared of anymore, and I started to understand what was coming from it. So why do I tell you all those stories? And why am I going to tell you this story? Because this is now, we're on the ramp of a C-130 going through the first halo jump. Halo is not to be confused with a static line jump where the chute's pulled for you. No, halo is a real tactical thing. You're going to jump out at a high altitude and you're going to open at a low altitude. Do you know what the neural pathways in your brain are saying when you're standing at 14,000 feet? Bad idea. Get out of here. This is not good. Attitude throttle. Vroom. And there I am, Clydesdale in the class. You're in 220-pound class. You're standing there. Master Sergeant is holding me, and he's looking at me. He goes, sir, back up. Put your heels over the ramp. Look down. Oh. You just look back up at him, and he goes, are you going to jump? Then I have one last thing to say to you. And I'm sitting here going, what? You have the rest of your life to open your parachute. Wham! Kicks me, boom. Do you know what that does when you're flying through the air? I did like 6 somersaults flipping around. He flies down and he goes, that's about 50 seconds. pulls off, and the chute pulls. So why do I end with this? And those stories that I tell you about the actions and the attitude of going through SEAL training. We're not going to go through SEAL training here. We're most likely not going to do a halo jump either. But I got to tell you, for some of your customers, jumping off the end of one of those C-130s, that's about what it's like month after month after month. And I know some of the partners in here, in the businesses that you run, because you have your own businesses. Am I going to make it this month? Am I going to make my quota? Well, here's the most important thing about this picture. You see, there's two ways to go off the ramp other than being kicked off by your instructor. You can go feet first, or you can go head first. And you see these guys? Those are swim buddies. You see, what I didn't tell you at the end of Hell Week, you get assigned a swim buddy. And when you get assigned a swim buddy, guess what happens to the success rate? 90% make it. You lose almost 80% in the first 6 weeks. But then you get a partner, you get assigned a swim buddy, and now you've linked arms. Those are swim buddies taking that jump together. You see, Acumatica has a term for a swim buddy. If you were here yesterday, listening to Ali, he calls it a productive partner. Acumatica has already called it out. They said, look, we're not doing direct sales. We're doing this strictly through partner the whole way. You see, the attitude that allows you to be unstoppable is an all-in attitude. The attitude that allows you to jump off with your swim buddy head first is all in, all the time. The attitude that's going to prove to a customer like me who is scared about bringing in a system that I don't know anything about has not to do with the promise, that's a check. Has not to do with the process, that's a check. It has to do with the people. It has to do with the all-in attitude all the time. And Acumatica is saying to you at this conference, we're all in. Who's with us? Who's going to jump off of this plane with us into this business? It's 2016. Every industry has challenges, but I'm going to tell you right now, an all-in attitude, when you partner up, and I'm a CEO and I'm sitting there, like I heard in a breakout session yesterday of an Acumatica VP of sales saying, look, you need our help, we're there. We're not taking your business. You succeed, we succeed. That's a partnership. That's how you make great companies. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome.